The following program is paid for by Absolute Mortgage, a division of Pinnacle Capital Mortgage Corporation. Absolute Mortgage Company, NMLS number 81395 and Washington CL number 81395 is an equal opportunity housing lender. Tina Mitchell, MLO number 145420, is a licensed loan originator with Absolute Mortgage. Visit AbsoluteLoans.com or call 888-90-HOMES for cost information. You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell. Sponsored by Absolute Mortgage, a division of Pinnacle Capital Mortgage Corporation. Now, in the studio, local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome to the Money Hour at 11:50 a.m. KKNW, the Saturday, November 22nd show. I'm your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell. Thank you for taking time to talk money. I provide you with the news on everything regarding your money, fresh information on market trends and conditions in our local economy. If you're hearing my show at a different time or day, you're listening to a rebroadcast, but I'm here to answer any questions that you have or connect you with the amazing guests that I have in studio today. Please call into the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. You'll definitely want to hold on to the number because here's my lineup for the show today. I have Skylar Olsen with Zillow. Zillow's providing home data, market trends, tips, and advice to buyers and sellers. Today I'm going to discuss with Skylar national and Seattle housing trends. And also in studio I have Charles Poteet with North Central Home Inspections. If you're purchasing a home, how do you know if the history of your home? How can you anticipate the cost to protect the asset moving forward? What's the home story? That's why I've invited Charles into studio today. And last guest in studio, Janet Greeling with Genworth Financial. We're going to talk about long-term care awareness. As a result of longer lifespans, long-term care planning is even more important. I heard a stat that was shared that if you're in a couple relationship, 72% chance that one of you is going to live to age 85. So it's a real important topic. So I'm excited to have Janet here as well. And that's my lineup for studio. Again, great information, great guest. You will definitely want to write down this phone number right now. It's 1-855-400-1150. Again, 1-855-400-1150 to connect with any of the guests and ask any questions regarding my conversation with them. And you can always go to themoneyhour.com if for some reason you miss any of the show. They will be listed on the podcast. And as always, let's go ahead and start out the show with a little money chat.
Money.
Today, I thought I'd bring in a little bit of my arena doing mortgages. Again, if you're a first-time listener to the show, that is my full-time career. I just hang out with you to talk money on all other avenues for the Money Hour on the weekends. But mortgage insurance companies, some of you may be aware of mortgage insurance, or also known as private mortgage insurance, or PMI. In the United States, it's an insurance payable to the lender or trustees for a pool of securities that may be required when taking out a mortgage loan. It's an insurance to offset the losses in case a consumer is not able to repay the loan and the lender is not able to recover its cost after a foreclosure or sale or the mortgage of the property. Now, as a consumer, it doesn't do any benefit from you. So if you're familiar with PMI or private mortgage insurance, a lot of times as a consumer, you're really bummed out that you have to pay it. But let me tell you this, if there were not mortgage insurance companies in the industry, you would have to have a 20% down payment to buy a home on a conventional loan. So if you think of the positive side of it, it's really good that they exist, and we definitely want them to stick around. Make sure that they have the banks have that protection so they're comfortable lending you. Now, when you're doing less than 20% down on a conventional loan, that's where PMI is going to come in. Now, I'm not talking about mortgage insurance or MI. Mortgage insurance is the same thing as PMI or private mortgage insurance, but it works a little bit differently, and it's attached to an FHA loan. And so I'm not talking about that because there's no difference in a carrier that provides mortgage insurance for a HUD insured home or FHA. But on conventional, most consumers, and I don't know any consumer that really realizes, and it's okay because you don't do this all the time. It took me a while to figure it out, that there, in all the different mortgage insurance companies that are available, there are different costs associated to what you're going to pay for mortgage insurance. depending on the carrier. I know it's really, really surprising. So you want to make sure that your mortgage consultant is shopping all the carriers. I don't have enough time during Money Chat to tell you the different reasons and why they will not, but you just need to ask the question. Genworth, United Guaranteed, MGIC, Radian Asset are the mortgage insurance companies out there. Now, so again, depending on your financial situation, there's going to be a different mortgage insurance company out of the 5 major carriers that's going to be a better resource for you, ultimately meaning it's going to cost you less money. And it could be thousands and thousands of dollars over the life of your loan. They're going to look at credit score. Higher credit score is a lower risk of default, obviously. So it's kind of like I like to use the carriers for mortgage insurance comparing to the different credit bureaus. Why do you have 3 different credit bureaus that have 3 different credit scores? There's algorithms that they have to come up with a credit score. Why don't you get the same credit score for all 3 credit bureaus? It's because the algorithm that comes up with your score is different for those 3 credit bureaus. It's the same with the mortgage insurance carriers. So property locations are graded based on the decline market status. For one zip code, one of the mortgage insurance companies has a higher premium in how they calculate their payment based on where you're located at. Now, if we just talk about our local market here, Tacoma in the South End is going to have a higher premium of mortgage insurance from one of the carriers than what you're going to see over on the east side. There's a higher risk of default in the south end than what you're going to see on the east side. So that they've got a premium price and base their calculation based on that. Debt to income ratio can make a difference as well. The higher your debt to income ratio means the more debt load you have, and it's a higher risk that you'll default on your loan. Property type, just as with interest rates, single family home is going to be your lowest risk. And that's why you've got the best interest rates, the lowest rates for mortgage insurance. Then you get into a condo, higher risk, and multifamily, a whole nother arena. Loan purchase. Higher mortgage insurance coverage for a refinance versus a purchase, which is kind of strange because you would think it would be the other way around. Somebody that's refinancing has a history of making those payments and they're bettering their financial situation. But for whatever reason, the statistics with the MI companies show that it's a higher risk. So you're going to see a lower premium for your purchase. Number of income borrowers. This is a common sense if you hear it, but if you don't hear it, you're not really thinking about it. If you have one person buying a loan or you buying a home and having income to participate in the qualification of that's a higher risk than actually if you have 2 borrowers. So if you have a spouse, significant other, partner, if you've got 2 people working in the household, it's a lower risk. So it makes sense that you get a better premium if you have more income, because if one person loses their job, then it's going to make it easier and a better chance that they're going to be able to continue to make that mortgage payment. So better premium. Now, again, this is only with one of the PMI companies. So you need to know and make sure that your mortgage consultant is shopping all of them, because there's a huge difference in the price that you're going to pay with this mortgage insurance company compared to all the other ones because of the fact that you're purchasing with more than one person or income. Now, if you only have one income borrower, it's the exact opposite with this mortgage insurance company. So it's really beneficial to understand how this works. And last is your loan to value. Obviously, the higher down payment you come in with, the lower risk you're going to be. So just a quick little thing on mortgage insurance, a tip for the day to make sure if you're out there purchasing a home and you're going with a conventional financing, you're doing less than a 20% down payment, you're going to pay mortgage insurance somehow. So make sure you ask your mortgage consultant to send you over the quotes from all the MI companies, the PMI companies, so you can see that you're getting the best possible coverage. Any questions? Feel free to call the show 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150. Coming up next on the Money Hour, National and Seattle housing trends. Skylar Olsen with Zillow right here at 1150 a.m. KKNW after the short break.
Mortgage fraud has been rampant since 2007. Many folks don't know they have legal rights. Find out if your mortgage loan has wrongdoings and fraud. Magnum Law Group will do a free audit of your loan documents. Facing foreclosure? Need to stop a foreclosure sale? Magnum Law Group can help. We have experts with valuable knowledge, and we get results. Have you decided to short sale your property instead of a foreclosure? Magnum Law Group has the experience to negotiate better and faster for you.
Hi, this is Deborah with Magnum Law Group. Please contact us at 425-454-4300. You can visit our website at www.magnullaw.com. magnumlawgroup.com or call us at 425-454-4300.
The thought of my sons growing up without me inspired me to quit smoking.
I talked to my doctors, and then I threw away all my cigarettes, ashtrays, and lighters.
I started exercising instead of smoking.
Getting support from friends online kept me on track.
Staying away from alcohol when I was first quitting was key.
Instead of smoking after I ate, I'd get up and take a walk.
I missed having a cigarette in my hand, so I'd hold a pen or a straw, anything.
Until I knew I wouldn't give in to temptation, I spent more time with my friends who didn't smoke.
I went to places that were smoke-free.
I didn't stay quit the very first time I tried.
I kept on trying, and I learned something each time.
Do whatever it takes.
No matter how many times it takes.
I quit.
I quit.
I quit.
We did it, so can you.
You can quit. For free help, call 1-800-QUIT-NOW. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and CDC.
This is the Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, on Alternative Talk, AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome back to the Money Hour with your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, right here on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, November 22nd show, bringing in expert advice and inside knowledge on today's events in our local economy and how it can affect your money. If you're hearing my show at a different time or day, you're listening to a rebroadcast, but you can always call into the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com to ask any questions from the guests that I have in studio. And my first guest today is Skylar Olsen with Zillow, discussing what's happening nationally in Seattle with our real estate market. Skylar, I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you so much.
No, thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Lots of questions that you have regarding Zillow and what you guys are doing for the online service and everything. All the information and data that you can provide is just real beneficial. And I'm just, again, happy to have you across from me. So thank you.
Oh, good.
A little bit about Skylar's background. Joined Zillow in the summer of 2012. Her research and that of her team is used by consumers, policymakers, and other researchers to understand real estate markets and make better decisions. Skylar creates many of Zillow's real estate index and matrices, including the buyer-seller index and the buy-rent break-even horizon. She currently holds a PhD in economics with University of Washington, specializing in environmental economics. Her academic work focused on using housing data to explore environmental issues. And prior to her work at Zillow, Skylar was honored for teaching excellence by University of Washington. She also speaks all across the country for Zillow summits. So great background. And again, excited to hear what you have to share with my listeners. So let's go ahead and start out. Are we at risk of a new housing bubble with things right now as they're kind of cooling off? And that's a real common thing that I have my listeners asking. What's happening in the market today?
Sure. Yeah. I think there's kind of two separate parts there. We can address kind of the bubble part and, is it not or not later. But the slowing down. I mean, really, when we're talking about housing, boring is better, right?
Yes.
You want to have confidence in, what the value of your homes are going to do over time and things like that. And really, it's important to keep in mind that housing, nationally and in Seattle is still appreciating about twice as fast as what pre-bubble years looked like.
Wow.
Right. So even though it's slowing down, it's actually more about coming back to normal. It's more about coming back to sanity, and having things calm down.
Yep. So it's exciting to see what's going on. And what about the rental market, housing? If homes are unaffordable, if somebody feels that they can't get in, can't people just rent?
Yeah, actually, it's that's even harder, right? I mean, in many ways, buying a house, let's say you had that down payment, right, and you had that savings, buying a house is still a bargain compared to renting, or can be, because of those persistently low mortgage rates. If you can get a mortgage, right, then, that payment, the monthly payment, is actually on a more affordable level. If we're talking about rents, I mean, rents didn't have the reset that home values did. They just kept chugging along, increasing apace. And in many places, like, let's take the city of Seattle, rents have been increasing incredibly fast. We're talking 12%,
Wow.
every year, right? Or for the past year, excuse me. And a lot of that has to do with, you've got new renters out there, as far as those that lost their home, lost their equity, turning to the rental market. You've got people renting for longer, right? And so rents, really outpace the growth of income, making rents much more unaffordable, right? It's harder to save for a down payment,
and
right?
When you're talking about rent and you look at the difference between, I'm so glad that you mentioned that as well. And I didn't realize that actually in rent, you can actually see multiple offers happening where they're actually they're doing a fixed increase on your rent to even get into the property. And so really you just want to take a look. And I always say, Skylar, with rent, the risky thing with rent is you have no idea where your payment's going to go. And when we're going to talk about as you're getting older and trying to prepare for life, well, how would you like to prepare not knowing how far your rent's going to go, and that you might actually be out of it might go up to where you actually can't afford. Whereas in a mortgage, eventually at some point in time, you're going to be mortgage free and not have that payment anymore. Right.
In many ways, that mortgage payment is like insurance against rental increases later.
Exactly. So how does Seattle metro area compare to the rest of the nation? And when it comes to the home values and results, Skylar, can you share that with my listeners?
Oh, yeah, sure. Seattle is one of the, right up there with the really hot markets, competing with San Francisco and New York for population growth and home value appreciation. I mean, we're living in, a beautiful place, and our housing market reflects that. So growing very quickly, right? And still appreciating strong. If we want to get down to the numbers, annual appreciation last year nationally was 6.5%. And in Seattle, stronger, about 7%. Right? So still appreciating faster than the national average, more expensive than the nation. And certainly if we're going to start talking rents on that other side, I mean, Seattle is right up there with, again, those, San Francisco is undeniably unaffordable for renters. New York City, the same. Seattle is starting to creep right up into their category.
It's funny because May of 2015 will be 20 years in the mortgage industry. And I've always told clients, the nice thing about Seattle, Port Rim City, but we follow all of our other Port Rim cities. We're just a step behind. So you know exactly where we're going, and just the benefit of our economy and all the employment opportunities that we have here. Now, we'll keep our summers a secret if they keep lasting like they did this last one. So what are some people doing to cope with such high rents?
Yeah, well, so one of the things that we started to look at is, if you are paying a large share out of your income to afford rent, right? Often it helps to add an earner to your household, right? So nationally, we actually saw that 32% of adults are living with other adults that are not their partner. Right?
Wow.
As in, not your husband, not your unmarried partner, right?
Sure.
You're living with either, there's plenty of middle-aged couples out there with the boogeyman in their basement, which is their 25-year-old son, who came back home. And we see that pattern of doubling up and sharing, homes and sharing a roof over your head increases right along with that rental affordability. Right. So, I mean, it's a coping strategy to help save for a down payment or save for retirement, or, be able to pay those record high student loan debts, right? In order to double up is a dominant strategy that we're seeing.
Yeah. And do you see, I mean, for me, and maybe I do mortgages, so I talk with people about getting a mortgage for a home all the time. And in my arena, I am so surprised when one of my realtor partners will say, you know what, I know you think you can't afford to buy, but you need to talk with Tina. And they end up leaving like, wow, I had no idea. I had no idea I could buy zero down. I had no idea, even though I have these credit challenges, there's still options for me. I had no idea that with the cost of rates being so low, that actually that in compared to rent, it was going to be better. Do you guys, are you seeing that do you see that on your end as well, that the education and the understanding that really a lot of renters can afford to purchase a home? What do you see, Skylar?
Yeah. And one of the things we calculate, and I actually do this at Zillow, is we estimate a break-even horizon. So how long would you have to live in this home, having bought it in the first place, to then have those expenses over time be less than having rented, right, over that time?
Yes.
Now, all across the country, because home values are going up at such a pace that you're earning equity, and rents are increasing so quickly and are so much more expensive. in many areas, that break-even horizon is much shorter than you might expect, right?
Yes.
When you crunch the numbers, right?
Well, and it's funny because these, we know a mortgage payment is fixed if you get a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. So just think about, you've got a fixed payment versus rent that's not. And when you run your calculation and the Zillow for the horizon and the rent, then you'll also see out of that fixed payment, 100, 200, 300, whatever it is, the very first month, and it keeps going up, is actually going in to pay down your principal, which means that you're building some equity, take away the appreciation that you have. So I highly encourage, if you're listening to the show, go to Zillow's website and play around with some of their tools. I mean, they're an industry leader without a doubt in what they can provide for access and resources for you as a buyer and a seller. But we're talking to those of you that are renters right now. The worst mistake that you can be is be in a position to buy a home and want to buy a home and miss out on the opportunity. And I'm telling you right now, you might be missing out, because not only we have low cost with rates, but we've got low price as well as we continue to see these appreciations. So what is your housing outlook? What do you have in your crystal ball coming up?
Our crystal ball is saying that housing is going to continue to slow down a bit and get back to normal. Inventory is coming back, thank goodness, right?
Yes.
So it was very constrained for a long time. You were seeing a lot of interest in, all these bidding wars and, price. That's what was driving prices to increase so much.
Sure.
Right. So now that inventory is coming back up and coming back online, that's going to be better news for buyers in this area.
Yes.
Right. They've had a rough go of it the past few years. It's going to start looking better going into the future. Things are going to start slowing down. You don't have to be quite as nimble on your feet in order to grab that home ahead of the other.
You don't have to decide in 2 minutes you want to make an offer on that house, but you might have a day to think about it.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. No more will you have to, debate whether or not you should punch out those other people that showed up to that open house. Right? You can be more
You don't have to worry about paying an extra 10, 20, 30 grand for that home.
Right, exactly.
So would you agree with me, Skylar, that, again, even if the market does slow down, or even if we lost a little bit, that price being always more important, or cost being always more important than price, that the urgency and sense of urgency is still there because of our low interest rates? Yeah.
We do. I mean, most experts expect interest rates to start going up, reaching 5%, during 2016. That's really going to make mortgages less affordable again. Right?
Exactly.
So still low, still a great opportunity.
Yeah. Every 0.25% increase in rate, you've just dropped about your buying potential, maybe 10 grand or so. So what should we expect the housing market in Seattle to look like? Let's just say in the next 12 months.
Well, the next 12 months, let's see. So Seattle, we're actually forecasting home values to increase 5%. Still very strong. Nationally, that number is less, right? 3%.
Okay.
So Seattle's still that kind of strong housing market going forward. We expect inventory to keep coming back in Seattle to that less competitive angle when you're out there. And we're also seeing a lot of new construction. Well, not a lot, but it is coming back. And a lot of it is coming back in that you can't really walk through the hip neighborhoods in Seattle, the Ballard, the Fremont area, without seeing these multifamily buildings coming up. And that should also ease off pressure for those renters out there.
Sure.
But, again, that comes at a lag. And we would still hope to see that as, incomes start improving and these households that are currently doubling up can afford to spin out and form their own households, that construction and supply also responds and picks up, and there's housing available for those people who can
makes total sense.
Yeah, go out on their own.
Yeah. So Skylar, I got to take us to commercial, but just a call to action or anything that you have for any of the listeners in any category that they may be.
Really inform yourself.
Okay.
Right now more than ever, people are going out home shopping already with a lot of information, in their tool belt. So arm yourself as well with what's happening, and places like Zillow are a great place to do that.
Yeah, great advice. Skylar, thank you so much for spending time with me and being in studio. I so much appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. It was fun.
Good. And if you want to get more information regarding Zillow, obviously you can go to their site. Lots and lots of tools. You can call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Get any of your questions that you have, or go to themoneyhour.com. Coming up next on The Money Hour, what does your home inspection cover? Why do you need one? And how will it help you in today's real estate market? Charles Poteet with North Central Home Inspections right here on 1150 AM KKNW after this short break.
Mortgage fraud has been rampant since 2007. Many folks don't know they have legal rights. Find out if your mortgage loan has wrongdoings and fraud. Magnum Law Group will do a free audit of your loan documents. Facing foreclosure? Need to stop a foreclosure sale? Magnum Law Group can help. We have experts with valuable knowledge, and we get results. Have you decided to short sale your property instead of a foreclosure? Magnum Law Group has the experience to negotiate better and faster for you.
Hi, this is Deborah with Magnum Law Group. Please contact us at 425-454-4300. You can visit our website at www.magnumlawgroup.com or call us at 425-454-4300.
Every day, more than 1.4 million American lives are disrupted by Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis. This year alone, 70,000 new cases will be diagnosed, and more of those are children. Nearly 75% of patients with Crohn's disease will require one or more surgeries at some point in their lives. Those are the facts, but they don't speak to the daily realities of living with Crohn's or colitis. Excruciating pain, a lifetime of medication, and days when they can't even get out of bed. There's a good chance you know someone suffering with Crohn's or colitis. Someone like me. I'm Amy Brenneman, and I'm asking you to support the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation of America. CCFA was created to help millions of us cope and to find cures. Visit ccfa.org today to learn more, donate, or join an event. It's time to face the facts and reach out to help someone you know at ccfa.org.
This is the story of Daniel, who was born 2 months early. He weighed 1 pound, 7 ounces. His lungs weren't ready. His heart wasn't ready. His brain wasn't ready. At the hospital, the nurses said Daniel was a fighter, and they would do all they could to help him. The doctor said even with the best care, Daniel may never walk. He may never see. He may never learn. Daniel's parents spent night after night at the hospital, watching his every breath, holding his tiny hands, and looking for signs that he was growing stronger. At home, his parents looked around Daniel's empty nursery, at the quiet toys and the still rocker, and they hoped that one day they could sit in that rocking chair and tell this story to their very healthy son. Daniel's is just one of the more than 500,000 stories of babies born prematurely last year, but there's hope for a happy ending. The March of Dimes is funding the research and programs to stop premature birth. You can help bring more babies home healthy. Learn how at marchofdimes.com. Working together for stronger, healthier babies.
This is the Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, on Alternative Talk, AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome back to the Money Hour with your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, right here on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, November 22nd show. It's a great day to talk money. That's why I'm here with you, and that's what the show is all about, how to make money, save money, and build a better quality of life for you and your family. If you're hearing my show at a different time or day, you're listening to a rebroadcast to talk with myself or any of the guests that I have in studio today, please pick up the phone, give the show a call, 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. And in studio right now, Charles Poteet with North Central Home Inspections. A home inspector is a person you need, different than an appraisal who determines the value of the home and really works for the lender. The inspector determines today's conditions of the home, and even more important, or as important, what is your home's future? What is coming up in the future and the cost with that home? Charles, thank you so much for joining me in studio. Just very excited to have a conversation with you today.
Thank you. It's very nice being here with you.
Wonderful. So a little background about Charles. Charles came to Washington from Oklahoma when he was 12 years old, and after high school, he worked with his dad for many years, where he learned all about construction. He came from a large family, so having a large family has been very important to him. His wife, which I actually have Judy in studio, she's here in studio with us, but we're just talking with Charles. But since we're mentioning the wife, it's great to have her here. And for his wife, he's been married for 48 years and tried retirement for a short time, but realized that retirement is overrated. Charles believes in hard work, integrity, and honesty, and he's been to South America 3 times on construction projects. And so Charles, it's exciting to have you here. And you talk about overrated for retirement. I know that. I'm a little younger than my husband. He's 8 years older than I am. So you guys, listeners, you can kind of figure that out. But he's at early retirement age, and he decided, you know what, it's a little overrated. He enjoys working.
You're exactly right. I certainly do.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and start out. Charles, what interested you in getting involved in the home inspection arena?
Well, first of all, realizing the fact that I was looking at retirement, and I thought, you know what, I'm not really ready for this. So I've, in my career in construction, I was looking to diversify, and I thought, you know what, after praying about it for a good long time and having the Lord open the doors and close the doors accordingly, I went to the option of saying, hey, you know what? Home inspection looks like it could go right along with my construction career. And that's exactly why I diversified and went into that. Yeah,
and that's a really good point, because I think it's a huge benefit to come from the construction background, because that just plays right into to home inspectors. So that might be something you want to ask when you're looking at hiring a home inspector, to see what their background is, because that has a big play in how well they're going to be able to do their inspection job. So can you tell me a little bit about your work history, Charles?
Yes, I've been a general contractor for a good long time, probably 30 plus years. And I've been, beside that, I've done a lot of different diversification in my construction. I've done a lot of commercial projects, as well as a tremendous amount of custom remodeling and new home building. So indeed, it does give me an edge on home inspecting.
Sure.
And that I can identify those red flags that a lot of times that are out there, that a lot of people say, you know what, it looks like that's really something that's that we really don't want to buy this home, but I can help them identify that. Just look at the problem and say, hey, you know what? It may look like really big to you, but I can show you how you can fix that really easily.
Yeah, and that's why a good inspector, I always say, if you want to know something good about the home, go talk to the listing agent that's representing the seller. Your inspector is going to be honest of what the history of that home, where it's been and where it's going. And I think a good inspector really is going to be able to give you an idea. And just as you said, Charles, I mean, that thing may sound really, really bad, that it takes 2 pages to explain that one item, but the reality of it's a $500 item, not a $10,000 item. So let's talk about the cost, Charles, of a home inspection, and any discounts that they can be expecting from an inspector, or how do you do your pricing?
Yes, I certainly know what the market is, and I don't want to be the low ball on that, but I don't want to be way overpriced either. And I feel very good if I went into a home inspection and done the very best I can. And the fact is, I indeed do discount my prices, and I get a lot of work, but I also earn my money. Yeah, so what are they looking at an average, Charles, that you're going to spend for a home inspection? Well, actually, what it depends on is the amount of square footage that home is.
Okay.
And denoting that is there's break points that I use, like start out at 1,000 square foot home. That would be anywhere from $250 to $300.
Okay.
And breaks at $1,500 to $350 to $400. And from there, it goes on up.
Got it. And, if you're a seller listening to the show, a lot of times people think that an inspection is for a buyer. It really is for a seller as well. I highly encourage as a seller to get a home inspection so you can have an idea of what that home has to offer and what issues are, you can get them fixed. Because let me tell you, when you're in a negotiating process over an inspection, you're going to end up paying a lot more for those items when you've already got an offer accepted. Whereas if you just deal with those up front. So I really encourage that. And if you're a current homeowner not thinking of selling, it's a good idea to go home inspection to find out where your house is at and what you can do in that pre-maintenance. Would you agree, Charles?
I certainly do. As a matter of fact, I call those, and it's called pre-inspection. And myself, with all my career experience in construction, I can identify the red flags and show them how that they can be fixed and give them an idea what it really should cost.
Yes.
So, because as is known today, a lot of, especially seniors, and a lot of people are getting scammed by just like you said.
Yeah.
They'll go in and it costs them a lot more to get that done before they can sell their home.
Yes.
And so they should know what rule of thumb to follow or what it should actually cost.
Of course.
Close to it.
So if you're just tuning in right now, where I'm talking with Charles with which is a home inspector, and if you're a buyer thinking of purchasing a home, if you're a seller thinking of selling a home, or you're a current owner that hasn't had an inspection in a few years, pick up the phone, give the show a call at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150, and you can talk directly with Charles, an expert in this arena. So Charles, if I have someone that's listening right now that could use your services, again, a potential buyer, seller, current homeowner, how far are you willing to travel for inspections?
Okay, that's a really good question. And because I'm independent in my industry, I can pretty well set my own times. So I'm willing to travel out a little further. Actually, I'm licensed to go, of course, anywhere in the state of Washington.
Okay.
But I try to keep in a logical sense, staying within 150 to 200 miles out would be pretty much the maximum.
Okay.
And I pretty much cover all the north end where I'm at now, Lake Stevens, Arlington, Marysville, Everett, Stanwood, and all those general areas.
Perfect. Now, sometimes with the home inspection, that's a basic inspection, but there's a lot of other things, pest inspection and things like that. So do you do a pest inspection, and how does that enhance and change the business?
Yes, that's a very good question, and the answer is yes, I do. A lot of home inspectors are not licensed pest inspectors, but the real estate people that I deal with, that really helps, because to be a pest inspector, I don't eradicate the pest, but I can identify what they call the WDOs, wood destroying organisms, and I can give them ideas of who to talk to get that taken care of.
Sure. Now, Charles, I know yourself invested in the senior community. I have a passion for it. Janet, our next guest that we're going to talk to you about long-term health care. So what are you seeing and doing with the senior community when it comes to your line of work in home inspections?
Thank you very much. One of the things that you'll understand about me is I have a love for seniors, and I always have had. I've always respected the elderly. I've always looked up to them, listened to them, and given them my time, and learned a lot from them. And because of that, I want to represent them the best way that I can, and helping them to make an informed decision by doing, like we talked about, a pre-inspection. Okay. And then going a second mile of actually saying what things should cost and that kind of thing. It really helps.
So is there a requirement, Charles, or advice that you have for our seniors listening in the transition solutions?
Okay, yes. Thank you very much. I'm really excited about the very fact that we do have a program. It's called Senior Solutions Transition. And it is that. The reason I'm excited about it is because it's a program that's a pilot program here in this area. And it is that it's going to spread to other states. But we have a chance to be on the very, very cutting edge getting started. Our CEO, Kathy, has got a lot of stuff in place, done a lot of research, and there's been a lot of detailed things behind the scenes that's been done. And so as this is being launched, and I know our next guest will probably say something about this too, but I just wanted to say that I'm excited. I'm a member of that. And I know that with the background checks and everything that we have to go through, it's really a very unique program.
That's awesome, Charles. I thank you so much for spending time with me in studio and sharing your information with my listeners. And again, if you're listening to the show, we're wrapping up this segment talking about home inspections, and there's just a lot of information, a lot of things to know about this arena. But in the amount of short period of time that we have in studio with my guests, it kind of leaves you hanging a little bit. But that's okay. That's why you can call into the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, it's 1-855-400-1150, and I will directly connect you with Charles that can answer any of the questions that you have regarding home inspections. Charles, thank you so much for coming into studio and joining me. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much. It's certainly my pleasure.
Coming up next in the Money Hour, long-term care is a big topic, and how you're planning for it. How are you planning for it? You need to stay here. Janet Greeling with Genworth Financial right here on 1150 AM KKNW after the short break.
The thought of my sons growing up without me inspired me to quit smoking.
I talked to my doctors, and then I threw away all my cigarettes, ashtrays, and lighters.
I started exercising instead of smoking.
Getting support from friends online kept me on track.
Staying away from alcohol when I was first quitting was key.
Instead of smoking after I ate, I'd get up and take a walk.
I missed having a cigarette in my hand, so I'd hold a pen or a straw, anything.
Until I knew I wouldn't give in to temptation, I spent more time with my friends who didn't smoke.
I went to places that were smoke-free.
I didn't stay quit the very first time I tried.
I kept on trying, and I learned something each time.
Do whatever it takes.
No matter how many times it takes.
I quit.
I quit.
I quit.
We did it, so can you.
You can quit. For free help, call 1-800-QUIT-NOW. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and CDC.
Mortgage fraud has been rampant since 2007. Many folks don't know they have legal rights. Find out if your mortgage loan has wrongdoings and fraud. Magnum Law Group will do a free audit of your loan documents. Facing foreclosure? Need to stop a foreclosure sale? Magnum Law Group can help. We have experts with valuable knowledge, and we get results. Have you decided to short sale your property instead of a foreclosure? Magnum Law Group has the experience to negotiate better and faster for you.
Hi, this is Deborah with Magnum Law Group. Please contact us at 425-454-4300. You can visit our website at www.magnumlawgroup.com or call us at 425-454-4300.
Sometimes the most important conversations are also the most difficult to start. What are your plans for the future should you have a long-term care event? Can you afford a comfortable retirement? The PNW Insurance Services is here to help you start these conversations with our Let's Talk brochure. The PNW is the country's leading agency for Genworth Financial Long-Term Care, with the #1 Platinum agency 2 years in a row. We want to build a trusted relationship with you to navigate your future.
This is Janet Greeling with Genworth Financial and the Pacific Northwest Insurance Agency. Please call 844-LTC-4U. That's 844-582-4968. Or you can reach us at www.pacificnwagency.com.
This is the Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, on Alternative Talk, AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage and finance expert, Tina Mitchell.
Welcome back to the Money Hour with your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, right here on 1150 AM KKNW, the Saturday, November 22nd show. I'm here to help you build a strong financial blueprint 1 week and one show at a time. If you're hearing my show at a different time, you are listening to a rebroadcast, but you can call into the show at 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com to discuss anything regarding money with myself or any of the guests that I've had in studio today. And in studio right now, Janet Greeling with Genworth Financial. No matter what you're doing, living, and where you're at in your life, there is always an opportunity to better protect your loved ones with long-term care insurance. And I'm so excited to have this conversation here with Janet. Janet, thank you so much for joining me in studio. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
And all first-time guests in studio, so it's really exciting for me because a regular listener to the show, we have a lot of guests that come back and share their expertise. So it's nice to have all newcomers for the first time and hope to have all of you back in studio. So a little bit background about Janet. Janet's long-term care began with personal long-term care experience with her own mother. Now, 6 years later, she sees so many things that she could have done differently that would have saved her family years of stress and financial concern. Janet entered this industry first to help pilot the USAA account from a local long-term health broker, then moving into national account acquisition and doing contract work for the country's leading long-term care awareness nonprofit, 3 and 4 Need More. She has now found her home as a marketing director for the Pacific Northwest agency of Genworth Financial. She's dedicated to working with their agents to becoming stewards of the industries through education and planning. Educating people is a key to the success of long-term care planning. And you've heard me say many, many times on the show, when it comes to our money and anything, it's about planning. And in your arena, Janet, and I think as there's things that we need to protect us in our elder years, for some reason we seem to procrastinate, and especially when it comes to things that we're talking about getting to a different stage in our life. And, so it's so important. It's such an important topic, and I'm just privileged to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
What is long-term care insurance for my listeners that are not familiar with it? Can you explain that?
Sure. A lot of people get confused between long-term care disability and long-term care insurance. Okay. Long-term care insurance is actually the payout that will take care of you in the event of an injury or as old age creeps up on us. And I'll talk a little bit later about ADLs and cognitive issues. And a long-term care insurance will help to pay for that care, which can get very costly.
So, Janet, if I have someone listening to the show and is just thinking, what age? I'm in my 20s, I'm in my 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. Well, we know that the 60s, you should really have already prepared for this. But what age really should you start looking into long care health insurance?
Right. Thank you. A lot of the leading experts, Susie Orman, some other folks out there are real advocates of being in your 50s and 60s. I am 48, and I got this insurance almost 6 years ago. Wow. The nice thing about it is what buys this insurance is your health and your age.
Yes.
So the younger you are and the healthier you are, the better chance you have for procuring this insurance and at a rate that you can afford.
So if you were talking to your daughter, which I know you have, what advice would you give her that she really needs to start budgeting? And I mean, should you be doing this like when you're 30?
Right.
If you can afford it.
Thank you. Yes. I am a big believer in doing it, doing this young. One of our largest advocates at the time had been Christopher Reeves. If you remember, he was in the horrible horse accident, and my daughter is an equestrian as well.
Wow.
And while she's only 24, she is married and has a lot of financial responsibility and has been looking at this saying, gosh, if I was to have a debilitating accident, this could really destroy the financial fabric of my new family.
Yes.
So in my terms, there really isn't too young an age if you can afford it. But whereas people used to start looking at this as they were nearing their retirement, 65 plus, we're really encouraging people. I would say the mainstay age is right around 45 to 50 to really get a good price.
So if you're one of my younger listeners, I'm going to give you a call to action. If you are in your 20s and 30s and you've heard Janet, say, I mean, maybe it's too young for you possibly if to think about it, but you have parents and be thinking about your parents and talk with them and make sure that they have coverage because they're definitely getting to that time. And so we want to help. And, Janet, when I explain with your bio that, and I hear that with so many people that you start to understand things as you're actually preparing, which is too late for our parents. So let's help them prepare now. So what other options, Janet, are out there to pay for care, like like Medicaid?
Sure. Well, Medicaid, as you know, has been around for many years. The problem with Medicaid, it is meant for you if you become indigent.
Okay.
You need, in most states, to have $2,000 or less worth of assets. So it is a viable option if you don't have a lot of assets in your financial portfolio. But for the rest of us, a lot of people get confused whether their health care will pay for it. Most of us, I think, put money away on our 401ks and our IRAs. And those are all wonderful ways to be able to pay for your long-term care if you were to get into a situation. The piece that I like to caution people about, because I lived through it myself, my mother was very well taken care of financially, owned her home outright, had a great deal in stocks and bonds. I used to tell my 82-year-old mother, there is no way you'll spend all of your money ever. And she happened to need care and had a stroke during the perfect storm of 2008. When we had the housing market fall, the stock market fall, and the assets that we had been preparing to use for my mother's care, we weren't able to actualize. We weren't even able to sell her home until after she passed away, and we sold it for half the cost of its original value.
What an unfortunate story to go to, but what a learning opportunity. You just do not know what's going to happen. And yes, everything goes up and down. And if it's down, it's going to come back up. But if you've got a trying situation during that time, it could be traumatic if you're prepared. So thank you for sharing that example, Janet. Yes. So the listener might be going, can I self-insure and pay it for myself?
Sure. And just like I said, you can. I know a lot of folks do go that option. All I say, and what we're talking about here is making sure you have this conversation. Genworth has put together a new national advertising campaign called Let's Talk. So the purpose for that being just get in a conversation and have an idea of what that plan is going to be. If you have got it all set up and your daughter-in-law is going to put you in a little apartment in the basement of her house and she's going to take care of you, you've got a plan.
Yes.
If you've got your IRA and your 401k and everything laid out, you've got a plan. But do take a real look at those things. I have a lot of husbands and wives say, well, I will take care of my husband.
Yeah.
Well, advance 20 years.
Yes.
Will you be able to pick your husband up off the floor if he falls?
Yeah.
There's a lot of those kinds of things that we don't actualize when we really sit down to plan. Yeah. And again, making sure that, when you're covered for long-term care insurance, you are getting an inflation protection rate along with your policy. So the policy grows as you age.
Yes.
Whereas, like I say, you have to be careful and be really prudent with your investments if you're going through an IRA or things like that, that you're watching the market very carefully.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And again, you don't want to start planning when you need it, because what a nightmare situation to have to go through that. So what are the chances that I'm personally going to need care?
Right. Well, thank you to the advances of medicine, we are all living longer. We're not necessarily living healthier, but we are living longer. When we started Social Security 50, 60, 70 years ago, that began at 65 because that's about how long people lived.
Yeah.
So now that folks are living longer, there's about a 70 to 72% chance that you will need long-term care in your lifetime.
Pretty high percentage.
Right. So it's 3 out of 4 of us.
Yeah.
So, oftentimes when I do presentations, I have folks stand up, those with the red pens, 1 pen and 3 people with the blue pen, and we all spin around, and those with the blue pen sit down and the red pen's left standing there saying, you're going to be taking care of all these people that are sitting down.
Oh my gosh.
And there's a great quote from Rosalind Carter about that as well, how we all will play a role either as a caregiver, needing care, we will all play a role in this. So we have to pay attention to that.
What a great thing that we're living longer, but not if you're not prepared for it. It's not such a great thing at that time.
Right.
So let's talk about the coverage costs, Janet.
Right. So, this is a perfect reason why I'm a huge advocate of sitting down and talking with a specialist.
Okay.
And I really pride ourselves. Genworth really works to build their agents as educators, rather than, most people think of us as insurance salesmen, but really to be able to do a proper job, we need to educate you so you know what you're buying, and so that you can understand those costs. There's no way for me to sit down and tell you what an average cost of a policy for a 45-year-old that's taking no medication would be compared to someone that might be 68 and have blood pressure medicines and different things. So being able to sit down and really take a look at it. And the one thing to remember, because a lot of folks come back to me and say, oh, this insurance is so expensive. Even if you're paying a few $1,000s a year, it doesn't come close to how much even long-term care costs today.
Yeah.
When my mother passed away 6 years ago, she was paying, it was a very beautiful home down in Wilsonville, but we were paying $6,500 a month for that care 6 years ago.
Oh my gosh. And I know in some of these cares to actually get a place secured in it.
Yes.
It's getting challenging.
Yes.
So what turns the coverage on, Janet?
As I said earlier, ADLs, those are activities of daily living. If you just think really quickly of the things that you do when you get up in the morning, you bathe, you transfer, you toilet, you dress, you eat. All you need is a doctor to say that you need help with 2 of those. If you've got 2 ADLs that you cannot perform, or individually by itself, a cognitive impairment, such as my mother's case was a stroke and dementia. Any of those things, 2 ADLs or cognitive by itself, will turn on your policy.
Got it. So, Janet, if I have somebody listening right now that's thinking, you know what, I want to stay in my home, I want to age in my home, instead of going to a facility, how can you advise and answer that?
Right. And most long-term care insurance plans will cover aging in place. It's great. People like Charles Poteet and other folks that I work with, especially with nectarg.com, as Charles spoke about earlier, we will come together to make it so that you can age in place and bring trusted professionals in. We partner with Amada Senior Care, which is a fabulous, soon-to-be national company, but we're located right here in the Pacific Northwest that provides that type of care as well. So
awesome.
Yeah.
So, Janet, end of my time with you, just a call to action and leaving my listeners with something, your expert advice on what somebody listening to the show needs to do right now.
You need to talk to your parents, talk to your spouse, get in a conversation and have a plan. And if you need help further, find a specialist to talk to. There's a lot of us out here. Genworth Financial, of course, is very happy to provide that, but there are many people out there in this field that you can talk to.
Wonderful. Janet, thank you so much for being here. It was a privilege to have you in studio and share your wealth of knowledge and information with my listeners.
Thank you so much.
And if you have questions for Janet, you can pick up the phone, 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150, and I can directly connect you with her to answer any questions that you have. And that is the show. I thank you so much for listening today. This is your host and mortgage expert, Tina Mitchell, signing off. I will be here same time, same place next week, right here on 1150 AM KKNW. Have a great weekend.
The preceding program is paid for by Absolute Mortgage, a division of Pinnacle Capital Mortgage Corporation. Absolute Mortgage Company, NMLS number 81395 and Washington CL number 81395 is an equal opportunity housing lender. Tina Mitchell, MLO number 145420, is a licensed loan originator with Absolute Mortgage. Visit AbsoluteLoans.com or call 888-90-HOMES for cost information.